Well, I think we got it. I think we got a little green doji going into the close there. I didn't see the actual close, but I think it was fighting for a little green candle in there. Still down for the day, maybe about 1% on the S&P 500, but still spelling more volatility for the markets. The big news today, I think, was from the BEA, Bureau of Economic Analysis, the PCE, the Personal Consumption Expenditure, and ever so slightly better than expected. It went from 116.24 last May for the index, this is ex food and energy, to 122.24 for May of this year. That was up 4.7%, and I believe the expectation was 4.8%. So kind of showing some maybe signs in the right direction, but that was still near a 40-year high. So, you know, that's a big difference right there. So anyway, more volatility in the markets, and that's what we're here to talk about on Trading Tune-Up. For anybody who is new, it's absolutely great having you here. We do this every Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And the main idea is to talk about little tips and tricks, little pearls of wisdom, things that can help you make better decisions and become better traders. And so that's what we're going to do today. Now, if you've joined us from the last few days, I talked about risks versus dangers. So last Thursday, we talked about that in general. Friday, we talked about it for the stock replacement strategy. Monday, we talked about it for vertical spreads. And today, we're going to do another example with butterflies. So if you know that there's risks versus dangers in vertical spreads, it shouldn't come as a surprise that they can show up in butterflies, because as many of you know, that a butterfly is just simply two vertical spreads. So that's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at dangers in butterflies. So even if you're fairly new to trading and investing, don't even understand what a butterfly spread is, that's fine. It's really the point that these dangers, things that you definitely don't want in your account, can appear in some very mysterious ways. So let's go take a look. So the first thing is, remember the definition of dangers, what we talked about from last week. These are things that can only expose you to losses. Now, of course, we're never going to put on a position intentionally onto a trade like that, but they can appear over time. And they can appear from changes in the stock's price, from volatility or our Vega components. They can do it from time. There's a lot of ways, stock price moving, delta, lots of ways we can end up with dangers in our account. So again, the basic idea is that they can only expose you to losses, or maybe an ever so slight profit, a couple of pennies, nothing to speak of, but they're virtually all downside risk. And so when that happens, we call those dangers, and they're things that you cannot manage. The best traders in the world cannot manage a danger. There's nothing to manage. It's just sitting there staring in the face saying, we can only potentially cause harm, but we can't really help you much. So if you think about it, we don't want that in the account, but the problem is that traders miss them. And that's what we're going to look at today, is how they can be missed in butterflies. So to start, let's talk a little bit about a butterfly spread for those who might need a little refresher. This is where we are going to buy an option. Let's say it's a call. We're going to sell two at a higher strike, maybe sell two of the 105s, and then buy a strike at yet an even higher strike. Typically, these are all spaced equally, in this case, 5 points apart. They do not have to be. If they are not, they're what are called broken wing versions. If we use different ratios, let's say 1 to 3 to 2 would be a ratioed butterfly. But they are all butterflies of some sorts. We can create them with puts. We can do them with combinations of calls and puts, which are the iron versions. But regardless of how we construct them, what I'm about to show you will always apply. So let's say that we're going to just do this very simple butterfly that is really two vertical spreads. So again, this is an important part to understand when you're trading butterflies. They are really made up of two vertical spreads. We can also look at them as a short straddle wrapped around by a wider strike strangle. And so once you understand how to see these positions synthetically, it's a lot easier to see where dangers can appear. But for today, we're just going to look at them as two vertical spreads. We have a bull spread on one side and we have a bear spread on the other. And this will be true whether we are using calls or puts. So let's take a look at these. let's say that here's our butterfly that we talked about, buying the 100, selling 2 of the 105s, and then buying the 110. Notice that if we split these 2 up in red, if I just had written that down as 2 trades of 1, so we sell 105 and then we sell it again, I could take one of those 105s and pair it up with the long 100, and there is 1 vertical spread. I could then take the second of the 105 calls here, pair it up with the 110, and that would be the 105-110 vertical spread. The one on top is a debit spread, that's our bull spread. The one on the bottom here is a credit spread or a bear spread. So again, depending on how we construct it, that won't always be true, which one's the debit or the credit, but they will always be a bull and a bear. So let's go back to our butterfly. Let's put on one with a pricing model. Let's say we're going to look at 30 days to expiration, and the pricing model says it's a net debit of $1.50. And therefore, our maximum gain is $3.50. So if you know a little bit about butterflies or even vertical spreads, you'll recognize that we would call this a 5-point butterfly. We're just looking at that left vertical spread. I could also look at the right and say that they are 5 points apart. So if we are paying $1.50 and the most it can be worth is 5, then the net to us is $3.50. So that's why when we say it's the max gain, it is the max gain in terms of a profit. So here it is. Here's another look at it. We could buy the 100 call, we could sell the 105. If we sell the 105 and buy the 110, we sum them up vertically. We have 1 of the $100 calls, we have 2 at the 105 strike, and we have 1 at the 110. And there we are, back to our 1 to 2 to 1 ratio of a butterfly. So again, lots of different ways that we can slice and dice these, but we can always come back to the fact that a butterfly can be viewed as 2 vertical spreads, and that is critically important for managing dangers. Here it is graphically. There's our risk graph of the 100, 105, 110 butterfly. There's the 100, 105 in green, vertical spread. There's the 105, 110 in red. That would be the credit spread. So if we put those in our account, if I bought the spread in green and I sold the one in red, we would have the spread right here in black. Right? So they're just, again, different pieces of the puzzle that we can snap together, we can pull them apart to create different positions. Now, over time, this graph in black is called the current curve, and that's what we look like today. So the blue curve is the expiration graph, and the only time that we look like that is right at expiration. So going into the final seconds of the expiration bell. But today, the risk graph looks like this in black, fairly flat. And then over time, it's going to start to climb towards the blue. So as long as the stock stays right here, ideally right at exactly 105, we get our maximum gain of 350. But if it happens to push up into this upper wing or this left wing, the lower one, we're going to have our maximum loss of $1.50. All right, so that's going to be important going forward to tell the story of where the dangers can lie. So this is a trade that a lot of traders do. They like it for volatility plays. They can do bull and bear versions, which can give you highly levered deltas. A lot of interesting plays with butterflies. But now let's advance the clock. Let's take, we had 30 days to expiration when we put this on, again here in black. We advanced the clock 15 days, which means we have 15 days remaining. And let's assume that the stock is exactly right at 105. What happens? Well, we move from the black curve to the gray. And we can see that this portion in the center is starting to appreciate. This is our positive theta portion for those of you who understand the Greeks, negative gamma. Out here we have our positive gamma and negative theta. So you can see that they're starting to get pushed down. And this is what causes it to appreciate, is the passage of time. All right, we don't need the stock price to move, provided that we start it here in the center and that it stays. But that's exactly where the dangers can spring up. How often do stocks stay exactly where they were when you bought or sold them? Never. That's why it's called managing risk. As things change, there are things we can do as traders to put ourselves into a better position. So let's do that. Let's say that the stock kicks up here to 112. So remember, it was at 105 when we put the position on. It's now up here at 112 at this red dot. What do we know is going to happen? Well, over time, that red dot or that gray line is going to get pushed lower, or as the stock price moves higher. We're just going to start moving towards this blue line. So what does that tell you? Imagine that you are the trader, you've got this position here, you know at expiration you're going to be moving to that blue curve. Well, most traders would just punt and say, well, we're running out of time, it hasn't gone in my favor, let me just close it. Not the best choice, but that's what a lot of people do because they don't know how to manage the risks. What else can we do? Well, this is where some traders will say, for a variety of reasons, maybe it could be a technical reason, just that we're overbought or oversold, but we are looking for the stock to reverse. And that would be the only reason to continue holding this position. All right, obviously, if we think that the stock is moving higher out this way, that's no reason to continue holding it. That would be a reason for shutting it down. But if we think it's going to snap back in this direction, that could be a reason for holding it. But there's a problem. If we are expecting the stock to snap back, think about it. What do we need? Where do we need it to go if we want, or at least somewhere close to this maximum gain? Not only do we need it to reverse, we have to be right about that, but we also have to be right about where it's going to hit the brakes. We need it to stop right at 105. Now think about that for a moment. What are the chances that the stock snaps back, keeping in mind that if stocks start to fall, that's usually when volatility pumps up and they just keep trucking. But what would be the chances that it hits the brakes at exactly 105? Don't know, but let's call it pretty close to zero. Right? That's not going to happen, and yet this is how traders try to manage these positions, and they hope. Well, I hope it turns around and falls, and I hope it's going to stop at 105. But there are things we can do here to make this better, because there's a very good chance that if it does turn around, that it's going to just continue running. So now we think, all right, now I only have to be right about one thing, that it turns around. I don't have to be right about two things, about that it has to stop at 105. In fact, I couldn't really care less for the move that I'm about to do. And what I'm going to do here is recognize that, remember that our stock is right now up at here at 112. And if we understand that a butterfly spread is really made up of two verticals, how about if we go check out the 100, 105? All right, so let's go check the 100, 105. We look at our broker's platform. Now remember, it's probably not going to show you this on your butterfly spread. You're going to have to go look on your quotes and pull up the vertical spreads and look at the 100, 105. And mathematically, we are holding that. And with the stock up here with 15 days to go, the pricing model says $4.90. Kind of the same example I've been using, and I did that intentionally to show you that this is in a very obvious danger. Why? The 100, 105 vertical spread can only improve by 10 cents. That's it. But it could lose us $4.90, right? It's a bull spread. We can see that here in green. But if the stock falls, we're going to lose $4.90. So what do you think here? Do we want to continue holding that? No reason. It's just a danger. There's no risk to manage. So what we should do is get that out of the account. So let's close the 100, 105 vertical. We're just going to sell that call spread. And we get a net credit of $4.90. We said that was the value of the spread. Now, here's another mistake that I have seen so many traders make. They'll say, okay, I paid $1.50 for the butterfly. I just got $4.90 in. And so now I've got a $3.40 credit. I can't lose. I'm net positive. Wrong. Because you're not understanding that one is a debit spread or an asset spread, as I often call them, and the credit spread is a liability spread. What we've done is we've morphed into a liability spread for a $3.40 credit. All right, so this 105, 110 is short. We have now effectively sold the 105, 110, and that is a $5 liability. Why is that? Well, think about it. Look at your rights and obligations. We're short the 105 call. We have the obligation to sell shares for 105. And because we're long the 110, I have the right to buy at 110. So if I sell shares at 105 and I buy them back at 110, what is that? That's no gain at all. That's minus 5 points, for which we have effectively received 340. So that really means my maximum loss is $1.60. There is no guaranteed 340 in it. That's another mistake that traders make when they start pulling these positions apart, because they don't understand the theory behind it and even the inner workings of debit and credit spreads. So it can be deceptive. It's a 340 credit, but it's a credit for a short spread. So now our max loss is $1.60. So the blue curve I've kind of faded out a little bit so you can see what we are now holding is this red curve. This is the short 105, 110. It has a maximum gain of 340. That's the effective credit that we just got, and therefore the maximum loss is $1.60. Take a look what happens over here. We have shifted the right wing down by 10 cents. Now, why is that? Traders go, but I just got a nice credit of $4.90. Well, that's true, but you also opened up the door to a $5 liability. Because you sold the debit spread for $4.90, we could also look at it as though you bought the 105 put for 10 cents, which is why I keep coming back. Debits are credits, credits are debits. You have to get the word credit out of your head. It can cause a lot of misperceptions. You want to see this as a debit of 10 cents. So that's why the right wing now sits 10 cents lower. Remember, it used to be a max loss of $1.50. That's what we paid for the butterfly. But is it really that bad of a deal? Why would I do that? Well, remember before we said that the stock had to, if we're right and it snaps back, has to stop at exactly 105. What happens now? See, if we look at that blue curve, that's the peak of that blue curve. Not true for my credit spread. I can afford to have that stock fall anywhere, 105 or below. Stock could go to 0. We're fine. And now this is all green to the left. See, before it's only green in between these break-even points and preferably really close to 105. Now it just doesn't matter. And to add to that, if the stock does hit 100 or below, that used to be another area of maximum loss for us on the original butterfly of $1.50. Now it's a gain of 340. That sounds like a pretty good deal for 10 cents, provided we are expecting the stock to whip around and start heading south. But again, I only need to be right about one thing, not two things. So you have to say, if it's worth holding on for whatever reason, it is absolutely worth paying the 10 cents or the $4.90 credit, depending on how you want to look at it, but effectively paying a 10-cent debit to get yourself into this position. And the reason is that we have gotten the danger out of the account. And that puts me in a much, much better position to manage the risk. All right, so that was always the theme that we were talking about. You cannot manage dangers, but you can manage the existing risks. But we have to be able to separate them. And this is one of the best ways for those of you using butterflies. So again, the question that I've been asking people, did you see this danger? Did you see it coming as I was doing the presentation? More importantly, did you miss the opportunity? Did you miss the opportunity for that $4.90 credit that now gave you a much, much higher chance at a $3.40 gain instead of the virtually non-existent chance for a $3.50 gain? Think about that. Almost no chance for a $3.50 gain versus a fairly good chance for a $3.40 gain. That was worth the 10 cents, and that's why we did that. So for those of you who are new to options, or even if you're experienced to options, hopefully this was a little bit of an eye-opener for you. Please, if you'd like to learn more about the options and trading, free phone call right here, 888-809-8058. You can speak to one of our professional coaches, former floor traders, vast amounts of experience, and they can absolutely help you. But this is free. No obligations at all. Not going to take a credit card and start charging you. It is absolutely a free phone call. Just give it a shot. So if you learn something from today's presentation or in the future, just think what you could do if you were asking questions that were relevant just to you. And so that's one of the messages that we want to keep passing along here with the Trading Tune-Up. So please remember, 4th of July on Monday, we will not have Trading Tune-Up on Monday, but I want to wish everybody a great 4th. We will be here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. But in general, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you can join us, I have some really amazing ones coming up and some good little questions for the group I'm going to leave you with to think about. It's going to be a new little angle that we're going to take on the trading tune-ups here. So with that, please give them a call, get your free coaching session in, and I want to wish everybody a great rest of the day. Happy 4th if we don't see you tomorrow. And I hope to see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time.